So now that we know how the ketogenic diet was born, let's try to define it. Simple. So basically, the ketogenic diet is a dietary regime that restricts the consumption of carbohydrates to almost none, while you consume moderate amounts of protein and you fill up the rest with fats. During a ketogenic diet, you are not allowed to consume sugars and starch. And that's pretty much it. The ratio that was being defined by the Mayo Clinic doctors is as follows. 10 to 15 grams of carbohydrates per day, no more than that. That's the medical ketogenic diet. 1 gram of protein per kilogram of lean body mass. Remember this, it's lean body mass. So if you're 300 kilograms, like 600 pounds, don't consume 300 grams of protein. Okay, calculate your lean body mass, then adopt it with the protein. And up to around 2000 calories daily intake, you need to complete with fats. Remember that 1 gram of fat is around 9 calories. Not around, it's exactly 9 calories. Okay, so in order to have the daily caloric intake, consume fats. And that's pretty much it. The keto part comes from the fact that during ketosis, or the fat burning phase, your liver will produce 3 water-soluble compounds. First is beta-hydroxybutyrate, second is acetoacetate, and the third is acetone. Altogether, we know them as ketones, or ketone bodies. And that's it. That's all you need to know about the ketogenic diet. As a definition, of course, there's much to dig in. Before we can explain how it works, you should understand, first of all, how your brain sees all this. You see, your brain only sees fuel, okay? He only needs glucose. So no matter what you do, your brain will always calculate the remaining deposits of glucose, because that's what he eats, that's what your brain consumes, nothing else. Okay, so for the brain there is no macronutrients, there's no fats, proteins and carbs. The brain only knows that he needs glucose. Now naturally glucose will come easier from carbohydrates, but it can be also produced from proteins and fats. As an example, let's say you are in a difficult situation. Let's say you're in a crisis situation, like you're in the woods and it's winter and there are wolves nearby. Your survivor instincts will kick in, of course. Your noradrenaline levels will raise to protect yourself. But if your brain has even the smallest sense that there's not enough glucose, it will start shutting down the other organs and senses. Okay, so you need to understand that your brain doesn't care about the rest when it comes to its own survival. Okay, so let's say if you don't eat for several days and you already depleted your fat deposits and every resource that you have, your brain will shut down everything and keep itself alive. Okay, this is how you explain why comatose patients are administered intravenously glucose. Okay, the brain needs to stay alive. Now I'm going to present to you a slideshow, a simple slideshow that I created to explain what happens after we eat. So here we are. As a side note, you should know that carbohydrates are the only macronutrients that are broken down directly into simple sugars, which are absorbed into the bloodstream as glucose. So after we eat, simple sugars are absorbed into the bloodstream as glucose. Next, as the sugar level rises, the pancreas releases the hormone insulin, which is needed to collect the sugar molecules from the blood and send to the liver, where the metabolization and redistribution is completed as follows. The glucose reaches the liver where it is metabolized into triglycerides, fatty acids, glycogen, or energy. Glycogen is the form in which the body stores glucose, and you will see next how. The liver will store a maximum of 100 grams of glucose in form of glycogen, then redistribute the rest. After the liver reaches the maximum storage capacity of 100 grams, the next 500 grams of glucose in form of glycogen will be stored in the muscles, in the muscle tissue, and 500 grams is the maximum capacity. So, after you eat carbohydrates, your liver will deposit a total of 600 grams of glucose in form of glycogen, 100 grams in the liver and 500 grams in the muscles. Because of the limited storage capacity, any carbohydrates that are consumed beyond this limit are converted and stored as fat. There is absolutely no limit on how many calories can be stored in the fat cells. This is why if you abuse carbohydrates consumption, if you eat too many carbs, you will get fat. Okay, now you have the explanation. Okay, if you eat more than the actual available glycogen storage levels, the rest will go to the fat cells. And now you should understand why athletes eat carbohydrates after their workouts, okay? And why some bodybuilders or intense athletes will tell you that it's not healthy not to consume carbohydrates, okay? If you have a very active lifestyle, or if you're an athlete, if you're a bodybuilder, if you work with heavy weights and you consume your glycogen very fast, then yeah, probably you should stick to a normal carbohydrate consumption, okay? Like Michael Phelps, the swimmer, I think he burns like 12,000 calories a day during the intense workouts in the pool. So yeah, I know he said that in an interview that he eats a lot of carbohydrates to just to maintain. Okay, so now that you know about your body's need for glucose, you might ask yourself, why in the world would I go for a ketogenic diet if my brain needs glucose? Isn't that dangerous? Isn't that going to affect me? And here's a very interesting notion: gluconeogenesis. Neo is the Latin for new, Genesis is Greek for birth, and gluco comes from glucose. So shortly defined, gluconeogenesis means the formation of glucose within the body by the liver and kidneys from amino acids, fats, and proteins during short or no supply of glycogen from carbohydrates. So now I am going to explain the ketogenic workflow. So after you eat and you metabolized the sugars from the blood, this is what happens. After the liver finishes metabolizing the sugar, the insulin levels from the blood begin to drop. Unless, of course, we eat again, in which case the process starts from point one, starts over. This should explain to you why snacking between meals is not a good idea, because you keep your insulin levels elevated. Even if you eat a pretzel, okay, you will still deposit some sugar in the blood, okay? And just so you know, the blood will not store all that sugar instantly, okay? It will just get the insulin will pick up the molecules and send them through the process that I explained earlier, okay? Next, if the blood glucose levels are very low, the liver will start releasing gradually the 100 grams of stored glycogen into the bloodstream, okay? So after you finish, after you stop eating and the insulin drops from the blood, it goes away, you will start consuming the energy. You'll start, your brain will use that glucose. Once it gets too low, it will transmit a message to your liver to start releasing the 100 grams deposited in the liver. Okay. If you consume it all, it will go to the next step. So after it finishes the liver reserve, it moves to the 500 grams of glycogen stored into the muscles. By the way, this is equivalent to roughly 2,000 calories. Okay, 500 grams of glycogen is almost 2,000 calories. Okay, so athletes, as I explained earlier, will always consume carbohydrates after intense workouts just to complete their glycogen stores, to restore them. Now, once glycogen levels are depleted, gluconeogenesis kicks in and the liver begins to make glucose from amino acids. Amino acids will still be in your body from the food that you ingested earlier. If the process continues after the amino acids reserves are depleted, it will trigger the breakdown of fats, and our body stored triglycerides are broken down into glycerol and free fatty acids. Glycerol then takes the place of amino acids and is used for gluconeogenesis. This is preventing muscle breakdown. Several days in, HGH levels, which is the human growth hormone, HGH levels increase, which helps to maintain muscle mass. Norepinephrine or noradrenaline levels increase, which prevents a drop in metabolism and contributes to the sense of increased energy. And I explained there, this explains why during prolonged ketosis you can feel very energized even while fasting. If you watched my videos in which I documented 9 days of water fasting, you will see that around day 5 or 6 I'm already very energized, and this is the reason why the noradrenaline levels raise. Okay, so now I hope that you understand exactly how your body functions after you eat, and this workflow will help you understand better what you should avoid in your daily habits in order to start losing some weight. Now, if you have other questions, make sure you watch the other videos. I will post as much as I can. Remember this, as a summary to this video, as long as you have fat cells, fat tissue or adipose tissue on your body, there is absolutely no reason why you should feel depleted of energy if you're into ketosis already. Of course, it's going to be harder in the beginning phase because your body is trying to adapt to ketosis. Your brain will ask for glucose, and just after it realizes that you're not going to provide that glucose, it will start producing some glucose from fats. Okay, so once you get to that level, as long as you have fat cells on your body, you should be okay. You should have optimum levels of energy, and you should be able to focus and concentrate on your daily work. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like my videos. Leave your comments below. Try to be a bit, let's say, not necessarily positive. I mean, I accept critics, but be civilized about it if you don't agree with what I'm saying. And I will try to explain more if you need. So take care.